Annie, you can start recording. Right. So welcome everyone to the next generation of Telecom, a PTC event with support from Ericsson Ottawa. We're really excited to have you all here today and look forward to bringing you all the exciting activities we have planned today. Before we get started, we'll walk everyone through some background information and basic protocols for the event. First of all, for all the attendees, please change your Zoom name to match the name you use on the sign-up form so we can correctly assign you to the breakout rooms. If you have any technical or admin questions, please direct message the PTC volunteers who are co-hosts with PTC in front of our names, and we'll help you resolve the issue. If you have questions for our speakers throughout the event, please either use the raise hand function and we'll call on you, or use the chat function and the MC will ask your question as time permits. Those are the basic protocols of the event, and next I'll move on to introduce both PTC and Ericsson. Product Tech Conferences is a student-run nonprofit organization on a mission to inspire and empower the next generation of programmers by providing middle school and high school students like yourself with opportunities to discover the world of technology. If this is your first event with us, welcome. And for those returning, welcome back. Next, we're very excited to introduce our partner, Ericsson. Ericsson is one of the leading providers of information and communication technology to service providers. They're shaping the future by creating connections that make the unimaginable possible and creating a world where limitless connectivity improves lives, redefines business, and pioneers a sustainable future. Ericsson also has a comprehensive portfolio ranging across networks, digital services, managed services, and emerging businesses powered by 5G and IoT platforms. So thank you to everyone from Ericsson for joining us today. And without further ado, we will begin today's event. The event will be divided into two parts. The first portion will be an industry panel moderated by Joseph and Cyrus from our membership committee. And the second part consisting of 3 workshops running in parallel, led by Ericsson volunteers. And I'll pass it off to Joseph.
So we will now be moving into our panel session with our wonderful guests. We will begin the session with a couple of general questions and then move into a more open Q&A section. Make sure to keep track of any questions you think of as we move through the panel. So before we begin, we would like to run through the basic structure of our session to make sure that all of your great questions are answered fully. As mentioned earlier, once we move into the Q&A portion, feel free to either use the raise hand function and unmute or use the chat function to communicate. If you have any troubles, please directly message one of our PTC moderators to get it sorted out. You may also send questions throughout the general panel section to be answered later on. Please remain respectful of these guidelines so that everyone can learn equally and enjoy the panel. So that will be the structure of today's panel session. So without further ado, let us meet the panelists. So first up, we have Louis Yu and Aisha Robinson, both Ericsson developers, as well as Dimple Thomas, Ericsson's engineering manager. So let us begin with some general questions.
Perfect. So the first question that we have for all 3 of you guys is, could you tell us a bit about yourself? So your journey, your story, and what led you to the telecom industry?
I guess I can go first since I was listed first. Hi, everyone. My name's Louis. I'm a Carleton computer science graduate. I did about 3 years in the program, along with an extra year in co-op placements. Yeah, my first co-op placement was at this company called Slice. I did quality assurance software testing, and I learned a lot about the entire software development cycle there, as well as that, since that being my first office job, where I got to work alongside basically all the different departments. I got to work with project management, product management, DevOps, engineering. The CEO and CTO and CFO were actually all in our office, right? Because we were such a small startup as well. So that was a really cool experience for me during my first co-op stint. And then my second co-op was at this company in Canada called Solus that did event message brokering. And during that co-op, I was actually a software architect. So I got to learn a bit about Kubernetes, cloud computing, excuse me, and CI/CD in the entire DevOps pipeline, I guess. And through that experience, that led me to Ericsson, which kind of aligned with my last co-op term, and I get to work as well with a lot of cloud computing concepts. We get to work in Kubernetes environments and implement continuous integration, continuous deployment pipelines as well. So yeah, that's a bit about me.
Yeah, my journey is a little long and a little like windy. One of the first companies I worked in was like a video production company. And literally we made like short series. And that on that company, I used to be very involved in like theater and prop making. So I basically ran that kind of stuff for them. After I did that, I decided I wanted to go into technology. And so I did my undergrad in electronics engineering. And my school at the time, so I'm originally from Jamaica, my school had a program in telecoms, like a telecoms track, basically. So you do electronics engineering, but then there's this track where you learn a lot of telecoms things. And that was kind of my first introduction to telecoms. I wouldn't say that was like my favorite part of the program. But as life has it, you like things come full circle. I have another weird full circle story with Ericsson. Like while I was doing that program, so Ericsson is present in like several countries around the world. I actually applied to be like an intern. They had an intern posting and I applied. I don't think I got a response to that, right? And I completely forgot about it. But when I got hired at Ericsson this time, and I went into my like the system where they keep employees' data, they had all this old data from when I like applied as an intern. I was just like, oh, would you look at that? Like several years later, I'm in the same company that I was trying to intern in. Yeah, so that was interesting. But after I did my undergrad, I worked in manufacturing. That was an interesting experience. I actually led a team of people. Some of them were like far older than me. And so I learned a lot about like managing people, and especially people who may not agree with you there. And so I think that was a really valuable experience. And then I decided I kind of wanted to go back to like pure tech. And so I did my master's in electrical and computer engineering. And again, I kind of funneled myself down a telecom track. And that has led me here, working at Ericsson.
Thank you. So I guess I can go a kind of windy, but kind of straightforward journey for me. So I was born in India, but I grew up in Dubai. So my first work experience actually was a unpaid internship in Citibank, which is actually a financial institution, a bank. And it was very interesting because that was the first time that I experienced what it was like to work in a professional environment. And it was very, I mean, of course, it was interesting because, you know, being the youngest there and kind of seeing and like helping with the operations. And I still remember, like, I would say yes to absolutely everything. Like, you know, you want help with that? Yes. If you want to do something, then I'm there. So I would kind of just be out there and like immersed in everyone's sort of like work. It was quite fulfilling. It was a month of that. And I really did feel like like towards the end of it, we built really nice relationships and still keep in touch with some of the people from there. So it was great. And then I came to Canada when I was fairly young. I was 17 when I moved to Canada for school. I went to University of McMaster University. And I did, so throughout my life, I always wanted to sort of be a pilot. Like that was my ambition or my dream job. So I kind of thought like, what is it that could be in that realm? And I was like, oh, mechanical engineering makes sense. So let's just do mechanical. And I liked, physics and such. So I started off in that path. And then I had a friend that was a bit senior to me speak to me about like, well, you're interested in mechanical, why not apply for mechatronics, which is kind of like a little bit of mechanical, a little bit of electronics, a lot of software. So like you get all of it, and then you can kind of like be very mobile and switch between things as you need. So then I started doing sort of that robotics and process automation. I quite liked it. And then as fate has it, like sort of like Aisha was saying, I got a co-op term at Ericsson. And I just wanted to mention a little bit about that because I applied to about 35 companies for my co-op term. The only call back I got was from Ericsson. My resume, I guess, was not the best, but we have a detailed session on resume writing, which I hope all of you will find very useful. But yeah, the only callback I got was from Ericsson, but I got the job. So that's how I kind of came into Ericsson as a co-op student. I was probably 25 years younger than everyone else in the team. So I was, they were kind of like a very senior, experienced PhD, master's group, many, many years working in the industry, architects, etc. But by far, honestly, one of the best groups to be immersed in because that's when I really appreciated how much people had not only the technical brilliance of the engineers at Ericsson, but really also how invested and how dedicated and passionate they were in the area, which really kind of showed something, being in the area for so many years and still keeping that passion. I think it was just such a great experience, and the humility of the architects, like everyone was willing to explain, to teach, really never felt like I was by far the least experienced. But same as my first experiences, immersed myself into every opportunity, tried to help wherever and whenever I could. And beyond that, really got involved in a lot of site activities and activities around diversity and inclusion, and all of those kind of themes kind of propelled me and continue to propel me actually going forwards. And then the Ericssons there. So basically, I really enjoyed my co-op experience, and that sort of brought me back as a full-timer into Ericsson. And another thing about co-op, please do co-ops because they are so useful in building your relationships and your network connections in the industry. And basically at the end of my co-op term, I more or less had a guaranteed full-time position at Ericsson. So I came back into Ericsson, a slightly different team, but also in the systems area. Then I did a lot of hands-on work and verification work and field testing work and trials. And I got to travel a lot. So I'm really passionate about traveling. And through Ericsson, I was able to travel a lot for different projects, pre-pandemic, of course. And then I got into sort of like team leading positions. And then I did a management role in a customer facing unit. And then I came into our exciting Cloud RAN, which is brand new technology, and did management more from a operational management role, both being involved in the development of the product as well as the management of the people that develop this cool product. So that is where my journey stands as of today. Also, the way I know Annie is from PTC and from DNI, being the theme driver of DNI at Ericsson. So I'm super, super passionate about diversity and inclusion, all aspects of it. And working with high school students is by far the most fulfilling part of the role in DNI. So I'm really, really happy to be here.
So although we kind of touched on this already, when and why did you start at Ericsson?
Yeah, I guess I'll go first again. I started I just passed about a year working at Ericsson, so I am still fairly new in Ericsson as well as the telecom industry. As to why I started Ericsson, I was aware of the company, right? Because Ericsson would always be on our co-op posting or job postings, and they'd always be like 12 to 16 months, which I found really interesting. But really, the reason why I started at Ericsson was because of how my experience from my past co-op term aligned with the posting itself. And so yeah, as Dimple said, right, definitely recommend doing co-ops and getting your foot in the door in the industry. That stuff really looks good on your resume and kind of gets the ball rolling in terms of job positions. But yeah, and another thing I want to say about that is about co-ops in general is that you don't actually have to be in a co-op program to apply for co-op positions. Some co-op positions you do need to be in a co-op program, in a formal co-op program, but I'm pretty sure for most co-op positions or internships, all they want to see really from students is a solid resume with good projects and kind of like a motivational mindset. Motivating mindset, self-starting mindset.
Yeah, so I just crossed, I think this is my 7th month in Ericsson, so I'm pretty new. Why? So when I was nearing the end of my program, I had through school I had a mentor that I was working with, and we were just making a plan, like, okay, we're gonna be done soon, what are we gonna do? And I decided, well, I mean, I'm gonna target telecoms companies and I'm just gonna apply to all of them. And like, there's 2 things in there that I want to point out, that like some schools have like mentorship programs. Join them if you can, talk to people who are ahead of you, talk to people who work in the industry, not necessarily telecoms industry, just people who are in tech companies in general. They'll give you good tips. And also if you have a sort of idea of what you want to do, like make a plan for it and then try your best to kind of execute that. The actual posting that I applied to in Ericsson, it was another one of those, like you'll hear this all the time, like when women see a job posting, they won't apply unless they fit like every single criteria. I probably only fit like half the criteria, and I decided I was going to apply anyway, because the worst thing is I don't get a call back. The best thing is I get an interview. If I get an interview, then I can probably like convert on it. So that's another tip, which you'll hear a lot, but it's also very true. If you think you might have a slight chance at getting this job, go ahead and apply for it. Yeah, so I did, and I also like really liked how, like, the people I met. I interviewed with the team, with the manager, I interviewed with some people from the team, and that was really inspiring to me, because I think the people there really liked what they were doing. And that kind of motivated me a little bit more to like, okay, I got to get this job. But of course, it's not up to me, it's whether or not the people who interviewed me liked me. But yeah, I think when I was offered the position, I didn't like have hesitations about saying no, because from the interview process, I found that like the people there were great, the work was interesting, and yeah, that's why I chose to be at Ericsson. I think it's over to you, Dimple.
Yeah, sorry, I'm just mute and unmute. No, actually, I was just going to add, like, we didn't like Aisha, we loved her, so hence she is in our team. But so true. Please do apply, even though you don't feel like you fit what is in the job description. My apologies for that. But please do apply. I mean, it is a reality that women just self-select out. So it is very important to apply, because a lot of times, I mean, a lot of people here on the panel can talk to you about this, not even seeing enough applications from diverse candidates. And it's really hard when the pipeline is not there. So I think we can do what we can, but if the pipeline is just not there, then there's very limited things that we can do. But yeah, I think I spoke for at length about when and why I started at Ericsson, but so I'll make it very short, 2014. And why? Because, I mean, they wanted me back from the co-op term. So, and it was great. So, yeah.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So the next question we have is a bit more specific, directed towards Dimple, is just what is the telecommunications industry in general, and what should we look out for?
This is an interesting question, but I think it's a very exciting one as well. A lot of times I kind of navigate the space of what is telecom by kind of bringing it a little bit to what people know and what they can touch and feel. So a lot of times when I say I work at Ericsson, either there's a realization or I need to kind of be like, I sense that people always ask me, oh, like Sony Ericsson, it was my first phone. So I'm sure like everyone on this panel has probably experienced that's from Ericsson. But it's an interesting thing because it's what the company's perception is in the broader sort of user spectrum is from that phone. But what is telecommunication? So the way I then try to explain is, people are all familiar with sort of cellular data and like 5G, etc. And I think mostly you associate it with some of our customers, which is like the Rogers and the Bell, and in the US there are other customers. So that's kind of what I say is like we are the people that kind of enable our customers. So we are the backbone of this industry, and we provide these mobile network solutions that enable us to have 5G and 6G going forwards and Cloud RAN, etc. So if you have ever used cellular data on your phones when you're walking around in Canada, you probably have touched some part of our network offering solution. So that is telecommunication. So it's a very exciting space to be in. I think without me saying, how important and vital it is for you to have data. So it's the great people at Ericsson that make that happen. So that's telecom.
Okay, so for our next question, it is more so directed to our developers at Ericsson. So what is the most interesting thing about your line of work?
Yeah, so many interesting things about our line of work, but I think I have to pin it down to one specific thing. It would probably be the fact that I get to work with people around the world. Ericsson is an international company with offices in North America, Europe, Asia, and regularly we have interoperating teams between North America and Europe. So I get to work with teams in Sweden a lot, and recently I actually was able to work with a team in Ireland. So getting to talk to these people, getting to know where they came from or what motivates them and what got them into their line of work from a completely separate part of the world. That's probably the most interesting part about going to work every day, for sure.
Yeah, I second what Lewis said, definitely. And also the variety of kinds of work that is possible within Ericsson, I think is also really interesting. There are lots and lots of projects going on in different areas. And I think it's not so much about hopping, but knowing that if where you are doesn't perfectly stops being interesting to you, there's opportunity for you to be somewhere else and to learn something else. It may not happen very quickly, but Ericsson does so many things that you can find a place, it's not okay, if you feel like you're not cut out to be working on the project that you're on right now, there are several other things happening that you could do. I think it's both interesting and comforting. And also the telecom space is it's so varied, you can't hold in your head all the different pieces that make the entire offering that is telecom's infrastructure. And so I also think that yeah, I think it goes back to the first point. It's just like, there are enough things to be done that you will find something to do within Ericsson, basically.
Yeah, and we do, at least in our team, we do like to emphasize that we want you to find something that you're passionate in yourself, right? And if it turns out that the thing that you're currently working on isn't something that you're passionate about, or you're not interested in, as Aisha said, right? That mobility to go on another project, to take on another assignment, that's completely up to you as well. Yeah, so very comforting as well, as Aisha said.
I just want to add one thing. I mean, I know, like, to me personally, I've always been very interested in D&I, and I never thought that I would have so much support to actually get involved in D&I activities, being an engineer in an engineering telecom company. I think that's very rare. You can have a lot of companies that make you kind of forget about your passions and things like that, and kind of just focus on the work. But I've always found it I've always found Ericsson to be such a supportive company when it comes to doing social activities and doing activities for good. And I know that this matters a lot to a lot of you people, right? Like, I mean, of course, being the next sort of the generation that's coming, and doing technology for good, I think, and being able to actually do a lot of good things while working in a company like Ericsson, which I really did not expect. And I really do appreciate the opportunity that Ericsson has afforded us in that area. So it's rare, but I mean, just to say that, yeah, it's a company with the right mindset, I would say.
Yeah, I think what Dimple said just also brought to mind another like important thing. Like, just because you go ahead and do your degree in engineering, like, you're not stuck in like pure engineering roles, right? Like, so like Dimple says, there's opportunities to work in D&I, which is important because, you know, we need to get more and diverse people into engineering, and like your degree is useful there. But like, if you feel like, you know, your passion lies somewhere else, just bring the learnings from the degree and like, you know, make the impact where you want to, basically.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you guys so much. We'll be moving on to our next question, which is just general to whoever wants to answer. What are some recent technological developments happening at Ericsson? So what should we be looking out for there?
Maybe I'll say one kind of local thing that's happening, which is quite exciting. So Ericsson recently announced a partnership. I mean, not recently, actually, it's been a while now, but more reinvigorated a partnership that we are part of called Encore. And what Encore is, it's a consortium between government, industry, small, medium enterprises, and academia. So we actually are providing the telecommunication solutions for very cool and interesting projects that are actually happening in Ottawa, such as the autonomous vehicle track. So Ericsson has provided communication technology behind the first of its kind autonomous vehicle test track in Ottawa, which is actually out over at the Invest Ottawa site, which is kind of like in the Nepean area. And what that helps us to do is we are working with a lot of partners and government, as well as Carleton and some other universities, to showcase these use cases. Again, talking about building a society for good, both autonomous vehicles, first responders technology, drone technology, smart manufacturing, smart factory, smart farming. So it's actually a very cool area to be in, because we really get to integrate ourselves and work with projects within development by working with what is kind of needed by our partners to help to build the society. So it's a very exciting thing that Ericsson's part of, and I definitely encourage you to check it out. But yeah, other than that, I'll probably let my fellow panelists talk about what's exciting in their space.
Yeah, not sure how much we can talk about due to confidentiality. But I mean, as far as our Cloud RAN organization, that's pretty new, right? Um, RAN, of course, standing for Radio Access Network, and cloud, obviously, corresponding to cloud computing or distributed computing. We're trying to move all of our infrastructure over to the cloud, and yeah, that's provided us a lot of interesting challenges over the last, I believe, 2 years around. And yeah, so many things that you can do within this organization in Ericsson. Yeah, I think that's really all I can say about that.
Yeah, same. I'm not sure like what we're allowed to say, but I think one thing that's like, for those of you who are like entrepreneurial minded in here, a very immediate opportunity is like the speed that 5G will bring, and for the companies that will like, you know, try to implement all these smart things for smart factories, etc. There are a lot of like services that they will need. So yeah, like that's a space those of you trying to build startups could look seriously at in the short to medium term. Like these companies will try to implement all this, like, you know, connect everything in their infrastructure. They'll need tools to manage it. So you can look into that as like an opportunity.
Okay, to end things off, what advice would you give to those interested in pursuing the telecom sector? Anyone can take this question. Feel free to unmute.
Not as scary as it looks. I would say that's the main thing. Please apply to the postings that you get. As the main, I think the main thing, if you take one thing away from this, please do not self-select yourself out of opportunities. Please apply. Please do co-op. I cannot stress the importance of co-op. And as Lewis mentioned, you don't need to be in a co-op program, but having work experience, having personal projects, hackathons, etc., something that makes you sort of differentiate yourself from the pack. I think that sort of like really does count for a lot. And it's connect everyone and everything. So as Aisha was saying as well, you know, we are allowing the space where anyone can connect to anyone else or anything else. Machines can talk to machines, etc. The opportunities are never ending. So you can expand and broaden and shape it to what you're passionate about, what you're interested in. And please, I wish you all the best in your journey ahead. And hopefully you've at least managed to kind of like be convinced about co-op terms from this session. But I'm sorry I cut Aisha off. Please go ahead.
Yeah, no, I mean, I was just saying, just jump in. Like, it's one of those things where, like, as Dimple was saying, you know, get yourself the basics, you know, do projects, do things that are interesting to you. And then if you find you're also interested in telecom, then just, you know, join and start learning, you know, like telecom can be intimidating, but like it also can be learned. So don't be worried about that if you're thinking about it.
Yeah, and just for reference, right? I had almost no clue what telecom was until I was applying for Ericsson. So I had to read up on a lot of telecommunications concepts before my interview. So yeah, so I guess the biggest advice we give you is just to be able to show that you're willing, you're self-motivating, you're actually interested in the work that you're doing, and you can show that through the personal projects that you put on your resume or are able to talk about, right? Those are the things that interviewers will be looking for when you apply for a job. Yeah. That's it for me.
Okay, so that is all the questions we prepared for today. We will now be moving on to an open Q&A section where you can ask your questions as participants.
Okay, so my question is that how do you use AI and machine learning in your product development? And like what tools and framework do you use?
Can I just ask, are we doing sort of like a directed question, or are we going to just anyone can step in, or?
Yeah, I think if no one's addressed, then anyone can step in and answer.
Okay, perfect. So yeah, it's a very good question. In fact, like we actually do have projects that we're working with Carleton University that are specifically targeting AI and machine learning, and especially research into that area. So the latest and greatest and yet undiscovered applications of AI and machine learning and how to apply it towards a cloud RAN solution. What cloud offers, of course, is the immense processing power of cloud-based technologies. So we are not restricted to physical dimensions and all the other memory-related restrictions, et cetera, that we had with more of our embedded platforms. So we really we can really explore and utilize AI and machine learning when we move towards cloud-based technology and having sort of native cloud applications running on our software. So that's in terms of what specific technologies, again, the space is so broad. We are exploring so many different kinds of technologies. So anywhere from like test analysis process and like figuring out like NLP processing on our test analysis so that we see what we need to test, to just like predictive analysis of where things could go wrong, root cause analysis, et cetera. So there's a lot of like areas and different tools to help us there. Good question, though. Thank you, Sean.
Hi, Cyrus. I think we have a question in the chat.
So Harry asked a question for any panelist. So it reads that you've mentioned that doing co-op is very helpful because of the experience it gives you. Do you have any advice for getting the first co-op when one doesn't have any experience?
Yeah, I can take this one. Honestly, when it comes to a first co-op, it really is just a numbers game, right? You have to apply to as many as you can. I believe I applied to around 60 to 70 postings, and I heard back from maybe 3 or 4 of them. But yeah, it really is a numbers game. It's about applying to as many as possible to increase your chances of an interview and then subsequently a successful interview into an offer, right? But other stuff that you can do, again, as we're talking about, putting personal projects on your resume, right? Because you can do those by yourself. You don't need to be working at a company to do those. And it could be anywhere from creating like a simple, I guess, a simple program that does something like maybe like a game or something, to anywhere from like that to like a multifunctional application. So it's really up to you. Obviously, the more complicated, the more intricate the project, the more impressive, and the more you're able to talk about it too. That's going to give interviewers a good sign as well. So apply to a bunch of postings and do personal projects. That's my biggest tip for your first co-ops.
I have another question from the chat. So what are the common languages or libraries used in telecommunication development? And how are these languages used in development?
Aisha, would you like to take that one?
Yeah, I mean, I think it isn't fair to say that there's like specific languages that are used over and over. I mean, we use a lot of Java, sure, but also because of the different things that are happening, you know, somebody may end up doing some front-end development on something and use another framework, you know. I think when you're thinking about, my advice would be to develop expertise in any one, like get good at any one that you particularly like, and then you can translate that to learning the technologies that you need for whichever role you land in. Yeah, I think that would be my approach to thinking about this particular question. I don't know if Lewis or Dimple have another opinion on it.
Yeah, just going off of what Aisha said, I guess there really isn't, I guess this doesn't actually apply to just the telecommunication industry, but the whole tech industry in general, is that you kind of want to, especially when you're starting off, you want to start off with one language, and then you want to get good at that language, and then you want to build up your fundamental programming or design pattern concepts from there, and then those, like such as object-oriented programming, right? That's a big one that we want our employees to be able to know about. So I'd say get good at one language, and then, you know, build a few things using that language. You get to know your way around it, because a lot of these languages, they are similar. But what it really comes down to is your understanding of, you know, core concepts. And so, yeah, I guess this is advice for the entire tech industry, not just telecommunications.
So we have time for one more question, if anyone has a question. Okay, then I prepared a question. So what do you suggest high school or middle school students to start doing right now to improve their understanding of the field?
That's a good question. I think get yourself, I mean, one thing that comes back over and over again is, if you're passionate about this field, and of course, I think many of you are, read up on it. So there's so much happening right now. Read industry blogs, read technology blogs, understand what's happening in the landscape, understand the players, seek out, as Aisha mentioned, mentors in the space. You would be surprised at how many people are surprisingly open to be your mentor, as long as you reach out, right? So I also personally feel like if you're passionate about this area, you have, or you will start doing a lot of these things natively, but also understand that you are like extremely blessed to be in Ottawa, which is kind of the high-tech hub in Canada. So you have all the industry players and partners in this space. So the amount of technology wealth that there is in this part of the country is quite surprising, actually. And because of that, there's also a lot of projects and programs that are aimed towards high school and middle school students. So, you know, just to name a few, like Go Eng Girl and like all of these different PTC, like all of these different consortiums that are here, and these different companies, not-for-profit organizations, etc. Be part of it, because not only that you get to experience what it could be like to work in a telecommunications and work in a team, you also get so many other leadership skills, you build so many of your soft skills, etc. And as you said, as we've been saying in the panel, you get to showcase something on your resume that you can own and you can talk about, which really does set you apart kind of going forwards, and helps you to build your niche, as well as helps you understand what you're actually interested in, which is another great way of doing it. So please do participate, find these out. There are so many opportunities. And yeah, and I hope that I think it's already a good sign that you're part of this conference with PTC. So I think keep on that track would be my kind of comment on that.
Yeah, and another thing I want to say about that is YouTube. YouTube is a free platform, and you can learn literally anything that you want on YouTube. There's tutorials ranging from 20 minutes to, I saw one the other day for like 10 hours, and they're just up on YouTube for free. So definitely, whatever you're interested in learning, YouTube is the place to go, because not only is it free, a lot of these videos are very well made, very organized, and taught by really qualified industry professionals as well. So yeah.
Yeah, I just want to add on to what Louis said. I think some of us will like sort of stay away from going deep on any one thing, like I guess out of fear. But like the best thing you can do is like have something you're passionate about and get really engrossed in it, because that will help you get into things, even if things that are unrelated. So like if you're really interested in telecoms, like don't be weirded out by like watching every YouTube video you find. Like when you talk about telecoms to even, you know, an unrelated industry, like they'll be like, okay, wow, this person like really knows what, you know, something about one thing, which indicates that he can learn something else really well, or she. So yeah, that would be my thing. Like if you like it, go ahead and go to town on it.
Okay, so one final question. What are the biggest challenges in your job? And anyone can take this. Feel free to unmute.
I'll take it first.
Okay.
Refraining from feeling overwhelmed. Like there's a lot of things going on. You can easily get overwhelmed. But like, I mean, the trick is to like know what you're working on and focus on that. And know that the things that are like flying over your head right now, like you'll get there eventually. And I mean, it's true early in your career, but I don't know, maybe Dimple can tell us if it gets better later on.
Yeah, it definitely does get better. I think once you start building your niche, then I think people start, you know, then you start finding what is a thing that you need to invest your time in, and what is something that you can kind of pass by today, and then it becomes something that you're interested in later on, etc. Biggest challenge, I think, oddly enough, I mean, you know, it tends to be around sort of that communication piece. I think, I mean, this is going to sound like a little bit cliche, but engineers are really good at working with their own projects and in their niche and with the machines and with their part. I think it does take a lot of diverse skill sets to recognize how things are connected and to join the dots and to be able to know enough that you can talk between sort of like the different players and between managing sort of different people and personalities. So I think maybe that communications piece, we're always working at it. There's many different communication styles, like some of, when you work in an industry with a lot of different people, many people have different types of communication styles. So learning to work with that, I would say, maybe if not the biggest challenge, it is still a challenge. And if you can excel at that, then you can really go forwards.
Okay, so thank you to all our speakers for their wonderful insight. Let's give our panelists a round of virtual applause. And so unfortunately, that is all the time we have for questions today. We hope that you were able to gain valuable information for your school life and beyond. And so we will now be moving into a quick intermission that will end at 3, and then we will move on to the workshop portion.